Live on YouTube now, so
Okay, very good.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. We're on lesson 187. Well, we're the review of lesson 187, but I'll just read lesson 187. I bless the world because I bless myself. But I'd like to say good morning. We already have Dove, Sharon, Lynn, and Cher, and everyone else who might be out there. So Ken's review of lesson 187 starts with the theme of form content returns in the context of giving and receiving, another prominent theme in the course. To the Holy Spirit, giving and receiving are the same because there is no one outside the mind, and therefore I give only to myself. Quote, you can interact but with yourself. That's a quote from chapter 31. To the ego, what I give, I no longer have, for it now belongs to someone else. The meaning of sacrifice, as this lesson teaches. If I am to receive from you, I have to give in return, and my hope is to give less and receive more. This is but another form of the ego principle of one or the other. If I give, you have what I do not. You won and I lost. However, if I am cleverer than you. Okay, cleverer than you. I will give something I judge to be of little worth and will deceive you into giving me something I value more. It may look as if you won, but in my mind, it is the opposite, a triumph that is the heart of the special relationship. The lesson thus reinforces the idea that giving and receiving are the same and sacrifice is impossible. So this lesson, 187, I bless the world because I bless myself. I say this all the time because the default in this dream character is disliking this world, even going to hating this world. And I remember, Dove, you mentioning this lesson long ago, something about the equality of God's Son. It's something like when you see that you can't sacrifice, there's the total equality of God's Son. I thought it was in this lesson. Is it, Doug? In this?
It's in paragraph 6. I call it the most horrific paragraph in the course. He starts with laughter. He ends with laughter. In the middle, he says all of the poverty, starvation, sorrow, lack, pain, suffering comes from your belief in sacrifice, which means I'm choosing one over the other. So
right.
Choosing one over the other is inequality.
Right. Okay. That's yes. Now I remember you saying that. So paragraph 6, line 4, he laughs as well at pain and loss, at sickness and at grief, at poverty, starvation, and at death. And Ken says, and our reaction is the same. If taken out of context, this sentence seems absolutely dreadful. Critics of A Course in Miracles could easily use statements like this to prove that it teaches you to be insensitive to others, to laugh at their misery, misfortune, and suffering. Yet this is the exact opposite of Jesus's teaching. When you join with him outside the dream, you realize everyone gains and no one loses, not one or the other, as the ego claims. So there's that total equality that you talk about, Dove. Having accepted that truth, you return to the ego's dream of sacrifice with the gentle laughter mentioned in the next sentence, which says that none of this is true. So the next sentence is, he recognizes sacrifice remains the one idea that stands behind them all. And in his gentle laughter, are they healed? The next line is, illusion recognized must disappear. Accept not suffering, and you remove the thought of suffering. Your blessing lies on everyone who suffers when you choose to see all suffering as what it is. And I read this quote yesterday that talked about joy being a choice. And when we recognize that joy is a choice, then we recognize that all things are a choice. And so choosing sacrifice, choosing suffering is an equal choice to choosing joy, because it's all a choice. And that hit me in a way that it didn't before. Like, wow, you're right. Yeah, it's just a choice to be in suffering. And of course, I've heard that before, 100 times, but it hit me in a different way. So this, I bless the world because I bless myself. I use it all the time, all the time. When I have a judgment of the world, I go back to this because I don't want to judge the world. And just turn on the news this morning, I'm judging immediately and with all this election crap. And just going back to wait, I do not know what anything is for. I'm not going to judge. I'm going to bless. So I blessed all the candidates. I blessed both parties and the independent parties, and then let it go. And then I was back at peace because I was not in peace when I was judging. So I'm going to turn this over to you now, Sharon.
Oh, that's for me now?
Yes.
Okay. This dream is crazy. It's insane. And the idea that I still get like judgmental has an effect on the mind. But then I have to look at that and say, who's judging? The insane voice is talking to itself. It's never talking to a me because there's no me. We are mind. If we realize we're mind, and I'm speaking to myself because I need this today, because like you, Lorri, I have fallen into, if I turn the TV on and I see, so I like her and I don't like her and I don't like him, and that is the egoic dream. And to think that it's important is not to understand what A Course in Miracles is teaching, which is takes me, years to get, because there's this attraction to guilt. I mean, attraction to guilt is really hiding the fear of realizing that nothing happened, because the ego wants this to be real. It wants us to not experience the light in the dream. And the dream is just the dream. It's not whether or not you're everybody talks about awakened and enlightened. There's no person. So why is that even? That's an egoic thought. I want to get enlightened. I just woke up. I'm the awareness. All of that is concepts. And what is really this whole course about? It's escape from concepts. That's what I'm looking at. So I'm reminding myself, as I need to today, that the concepts are always going to be in duality. And if I think Sharon's opinion matters, that's a problem. Because there's no Sharon. This voice that's talking is the Son of God, talking to itself, always dreaming about itself. The happy dream is all the desire we need here. Because to be happy is to know that nothing happened. It's lucid dreaming. It's walking around the world and saying, this is incredible. How did this dream even happen? Well, it didn't. Think about the dream that I had last night or the night before. It's funny. I have to write more in the journal that I have, because I have had recurring dreams that, I have implanted dentures. So they come out though. So they're implanted, but they're not completely. So they come out, but they're just, they just feel like they're real because of what was done to my mouth. So in this dream, I was dreaming that I took my teeth out and nobody noticed. So I went back and thought, that's got to mean something, right? Because I am not my teeth, nor am I even there. But we believe through belief that we are. So, and then there's shame. Oh my God, I just failed the course. You can't fail something that never happened. And you're dreaming about yourself. I don't want to make the dream more real than it is. If we talk about different lifetimes, to me, you're back in a story. You don't know a thing, no one does. And that is the truth. I don't know anything and no one else does. And that is probably the most uncomfortable place to be when you're in the ego. Yes, I have opinions about the election, but who has them? The ego. Now, what do I want? In every moment, what do I want? I want to be vigilant for God and his kingdom. Why? Because that's all that's here. This is imagination. This is, so when I was talking about the nobody noticed I had no teeth, I realized that the desire to still be Sharon is so planted and it's rooted in this mind that I'm dreaming with. And what it's doing is causing me to think, well, if I don't have my teeth, then everybody will laugh at me. Well, wouldn't that be wonderful? What would be the point to even put up another story about I have to look good? I don't want anybody to think that I lost my teeth or I'm too fat or too thin. All of that is what the ego is trying to do to distract me from the present moment. And in the dream, I was embarrassed that they didn't say anything. Why didn't they notice I didn't have teeth? Nobody notices anything but themselves. You don't notice another brother. You can think they're great, but they're in your mind as thought. So the whole point of worrying about, I think it was the emperor has no clothes was really what that message was from spirit when I had that dream. Because it was recurring. A couple times in a row, I've dreamt that people saw me without my teeth. And, there's still shame and judgment in the mind. I don't have like an expectation that I know when it's all going to dissolve. But I do know I have one expectation for myself, and that is to show up and do this work. I committed myself 20 years ago to doing, I found release right away. Right away. There's a knowing in all of us that we know this is not real. And we are having an attack on ourselves, which is God. We're attacking the highest grandeur that we could be given instead of grandiosity, which is totally ridiculous. It doesn't do anything. And it doesn't give us the energy that we get in the oneness. Oneness is really all that's here. It's all light. Light is what the light of God made this seeming dream. So how much do I want to have a good life here? What does that even mean? I had things come up in the last week, and I've gotten to look at the insanity that's in my mind, and also the insanity that's coming through my projections, because they're all just thought. And so if we keep in mind, or I keep in mind, that to be in holy instant is the escape of all concepts. Now, that's not happened completely for me, for my mind, but why would it matter? When I really understand that only the truth is true, and that this dream is meaningless, and that I'm interpreting every moment to try to make it real. That's all. Over to you, Doug.
Well, that was a dynamite talk, Sharon. You too, Lorri. Lorri went over today's lesson. The review of lesson 187. And I also put Ken Wapnick's commentary up. I put up on the top. Now are we blessed, and now we bless the world. Basically, like Lynn's birthday lesson is lesson 40. I am blessed as a son of God. So we're all blessed. Of course, we think that we're cursed, and of course that's because we're listening to the ego, who's always in an attack mode. So let me put up what Ken Wapnick says in his commentary, which is also not too different than the one that you read, but I like his short commentaries. This is what he said. Now that our minds have accepted the Holy Spirit's blessing instead of the ego's curse, I mean, that's the whole course. If I know I'm blessed, why am I attacking anything? I'm blessed as a son of God. And he tells you in lesson 23, only by giving up my attack thoughts can I let go of fear. So if I'm going through this world afraid of anything, making things good, bad, right, wrong. That's a terrible way to live when there's nothing to fear. Absolutely. He tells you this in lesson 48. There is nothing to fear. This is a fact. But we don't believe Jesus. We think there is something to fear, and and I'm angry, or I'm depressed. I live in anxiety. You know, something terrible is going to happen. I'm going to die. I mean, isn't that true? We all die, right? So Ken Wapping says, now that our minds have accepted the Holy Spirit's blessing instead of the ego's curse, it extends through us, for what is within the mind flows outward. If it's guilt, we project an attack. If it's forgiveness, it extends, embracing the world in Jesus' unified perception of peace. So the most important thing that I can do for myself is rest in God, rest in peace. Literally, the Course says it's a big joke that this world, the ego says, rest in peace is for the people that don't exist anymore. If you die, you rest in peace. No, rest in peace is for the living, not for the dead. You really got to laugh that the world is so upside down, literally upside down. It extends, embracing the world in Jesus' unified perception of peace. Now, peace means a peaceful mind, that I'm not into judgments, thinking that one thing is better than another. In this world of dreams, there's no such thing as one thing is better than another. It's a dream. To remember that I am the dreamer is meaning that I'm a lucid dreamer. A lucid dreamer is somebody who dreams but knows that he's in the dream and is not afraid. It's a dream. It's not real. If you think it's real, there's every reason to be afraid. But it's not real. That's why you get to what's called a happy dream. So as you were speaking, Sharon, I wrote a couple of things. I was very inspired by what you said when I'll put it here on the board so everybody can see. I wrote, you said, I don't want to make the dream more real than it is. And I thought that was a very powerful statement. It's a dream, but as soon as you make it, you give substance to it and say, oh yeah, that's good, that's bad, that's right, you're making it more real. No, it's a dream. It's not more or less good or bad, right or wrong. If it was real, yeah, there would be a good and bad, right or wrong. No, it's a dream. And then I wrote, you were talking about your teeth and being rooted, and I was just about to, I was just about to talk about what am I rooting for? Like I noticed, I live in New York, so there's two teams in New York: the New York Yankees and the New York Mets. And half of New York likes the Yankees, and half of New York likes the Mets. And they just had a Subway Series, and the Mets beat the Yankees all 4 games in the Subway Series. They just beat them. So if you were a Yankee fan, and I was when I was a kid and 7, 8 years old, I was a Yankee fan then. I'm not such a big Yankee fan now. I don't think it really means a lot, but I still would like to see the Yankees win. And they lost all 4 games. And I said, my God, they lost all 4 games. Like it's real. No, it's not real. It's part of the dream. Now I can either suffer and say, oh my God, the poor Yankees, or I can just smile and say, hey, that's just the way it is. Now we all like the word is because we all have this new book called Business is Your Only Business. So when Amanda Stokes spoke about isness as your only business, I mean, she's really talking about God is, that's your only business. Your business is not the dream. Your business is God, but we all have a different idea of the word God. Like some people say, well, he's an old man, or he doesn't really pay attention, or whatever your idea of God is, it doesn't really matter. But the word is, and that's what Ken Wapnick says, the only thing that's true in A Course in Miracles is God is. Everything else is a concept. And Amanda Soak took it a step further. It's the isness. And I've been saying that for a very long time because, truth is, peace is, love is, God is. The isness is a verb, and someone wrote, it was a rabbi that once wrote a book called God is a Verb. If you think God is a noun, I mean, that's ridiculous. A noun is like a name. A name of what? We have millions and millions of names to call anything. It's a dog, a cat, a lion, a lamb, a cow. What's in a name? Nothing. In fact, our very first poem in Isness is Your Only Business, which we all read together. She read it first, and then Lynn read it. Is what is your identity if your name is not your identity? So you have to start going beyond nouns and get to something that lasts forever. And that's what the isness is. Isness, which anything that lasts forever, anything that's changeless, eternal, is our only business. But when we talk about things of this world, I mean, the ego loves to talk about things because when we talk about things, the ego gets to be an expert. Oh, yeah, I know what's good and I know what's bad and I know what's right and I know what's. Oh, really? That's why the world looks exactly the way it does. It's like living in hell. In heaven, what does Course say heaven is? Heaven is an awareness of perfect oneness. It's an awareness of perfect oneness. In oneness, there's no differences in oneness. What is the same and equal can't be judged. I mean, who is there to judge the love of God? Who is there to judge the peace of God? There's nothing outside of the love of God. It's all encompassing. So I just could read a little bit more in the chat. It says, it seems I need to do things to root myself in the dream because I think it's real. It's not a dream. Kind of going along with the teeth being rooted. I got to root myself. And the body is real. I don't want people to look at me and laugh. I mean, like Dove has his upper teeth, but I don't have my lower teeth. So, I don't want people to look at me and say, "Oh my God, look at him." No, that's not who Dove is. I am not a body. How many times have I got to say the same thing? I am not a body. I am spirit. Spirit doesn't have teeth. Not a dream. If I was a lucid dreamer, a lucid dreamer means someone who's aware that he's dreaming. There would be nothing to fear, and I could have a happy dream. I could laugh at what I used to take seriously. And as I usually end up with everything I say, you just got to laugh. You just got to laugh. You take anything in this world seriously, the ego has got you by the short and curlies. That's it for me right now. Back on over to you, Lorri. And I want to welcome Mickey, who just joined us. Mickey's my new friend from Chapel Hill, Miss Cher, and Karen. Karen, my sharing partner on Mondays. Love you all. Back over to you.
Yes, thanks, Dove. And I was going to welcome Mickey and Karen as well. So, hi, Mickey. I've never met you before. So, okay. So, getting back to what Dove you were just saying, and you were saying God is, truth is, love is, peace is, and I like to say health is. And I noticed Karen put on the board something else I say is perfection is. God is perfect, therefore I am perfect. God is perfection in everything. And if the body is just a reflection of the mind, then the body has to be perfect when the mind is healed in its perfection. And the Course tells us there is no body. The body's just an image. So the image that reflects the perfection of the mind will be perfect. And you were also saying that, God is a verb. I like to think that God is a verb and a noun. So we've heard these ideas of God in the resting state, God in the active state. And it's both. God is love. God is peace. Those are nouns, but they're also verbs. They're also the expression. So I think it's both and. And the other thing you were talking about, Dove, about blessing instead of cursing the world. That's why I like to use this lesson 187. I bless the world because I bless myself. Because I've tended to curse the world a lot, and I still do it. I still fall into it, and I catch myself and say, oops, sorry, nope, I bless the world because I bless myself. And Sharon, regarding what you were saying, I love what you talk about when your teeth and your dream of the teeth. And the teeth has been a theme for you for as long as I've known you. And it's so interesting how we have our personal lessons, and the Course says there is no world, and this will be taught to you in a lesson that you can understand in lesson 132. It will be shown to you in a form that you will understand. And one of the forms, Sharon, for you is the teeth, the teeth issue. So I think it's so cool that you had this dream that nobody even noticed that you didn't have any teeth. What a great thing. What a great release, and letting go of this idea that you are your teeth. And so I think that's so cool. And the other thing that you had said was that we're attracted to guilt. And I was noticing that in my meditation this morning, that, the mind is just going all over the place, all over on all these different topics like it always does. That's what the ego mind does. And how much we enjoy and are attracted to our little problems that we have to solve, the little things going on in our personal worlds. And it's like, well, then I just go to lesson 1, or lesson 4, my thoughts, or these thoughts do not mean anything. Lesson 10, my thoughts do not mean anything. And just going up, nothing I see means anything. I don't have to listen to these thoughts. That ego mind is going to chatter. It just does. It just does. And, but we don't have to listen to it. So getting back to lesson, lesson 187, Karen, you put on, nice to see you, Lorri. I usually don't have my video on, and I at least have a little bit of hair done today. No makeup, because I thought, well, I'll just go on without any makeup. That's kind of like you with the teeth, Sharon. Not having makeup on is like, for me, it's like, what? I don't dare let people see me, but who cares? I'm, that's one of the beauties of aging, is that even though aging is not real either, that you let go of your standards, man. You have to, or else you really will suffer. So back to the lesson 187, paragraph 7, lines 3 to 5 read, your blessing lies on everyone who suffers when you choose to see all suffering as what it is. The thought of sacrifice gives rise to all the forms that suffering appears to take. And sacrifice is an idea so mad that sanity dismisses it at once. So when it says, when you choose to see all suffering as what it is, a lot of spiritual paths say, it is just what it is, and suffering is part of everything, and suffering is good, and suffering is, it's not good or bad, it's all good. And I never could accept that. When this says see suffering as what it is nothing. That's where the Course veers off from other spiritual paths. when it says, let me accept all things as what they are, or let me judge nothing that occurs today. It's not that that car accident or that war is good. We shouldn't judge it because it's all good. No, it's all nothing. All form is nothing. And so when I got that point, then I can see suffering as what it is, as nothing, and look past bodies to the truth behind that nothing is happening. Because if I think something is happening, I'm going to be judging it as horrible, but then, oh, my spiritual ego is going to say, but no, don't judge it as horrible. It's really good because there's a good lesson going to come from this. And I just appreciate that the Course does not teach it that way, that in chapter 26, section 8, the immediacy of salvation, it says that the ego looks on tragedy and says, oh, and sighs and says, oh, we'll understand it down the road. And the Course says, no, sorry, there's no understanding anything in form. It's all insane. It's all the dream. Salvation is right here, right now, when you wake up from the dream and you say, thank you, God. Thank you, God, that I am as you created me. And that everyone is, and that everyone all these seeming separate bodies from ourselves, which they're not, they're all us. But knowing that every single person in the world has this choice right here, right now. And when we hold that consciousness for everyone and everything, that's when, for me, that's when I don't suffer. But there is no separate me. So it's just the one mind going, forgiveness looks on things and with gentleness and says, my brother, this is not so. This is not so. And the miracle looks on devastation and reminds the mind that what it is seeing is false. Because I cannot look on form. I cannot look on war and disasters and people who are dying of cancer. And I can't look on that stuff and say that it's just okay. It's just okay. It's all part of it. No, I can't do that. But I can look on it and say, my brother, what you think is not the truth. This is not who you are. This is not happening except in our minds. That I can do and do. So Ken says, sacrifice is insane because it is an inherent part of the ego's thought system of insanity that says I have separated from God, for which a price must be paid, hopefully by someone else. Look at these representative statements from the text. Chapter 3. Sacrifice is a notion totally unknown to God. It arises solely from fear, and frightened people can be vicious. And I had a new client show up the other day, and he said something about sacrifice, or maybe it was suffering. I can't remember. It was I think it was sacrifice. He says, I know I need to sacrifice this. It's a sacrifice that must be made. And I said to him, just something, I said, well, what if there is no sacrifice? What if there is no need for sacrifice? And he stopped and he went, huh. So that's the right mind coming in there going, oh, whoa, this is a new idea. Maybe I can be free of the idea of sacrifice. So sacrificing in any way is a violation of my injunction that you should be merciful, even as your Father in heaven is merciful. Okay, and so paragraph 8, lines 1-3 say, never believe that you can sacrifice. There is no place for sacrifice in what has any value. If the thought occurs, its very presence proves that error has arisen and correction must be made. And I remember a friend of mine saying, love is not love without sacrifice. And that is the ego's version of special relationships. I sacrifice, you sacrifice. And again, sacrifice can only be done with form. In love and truth and ideas, how can there be any sacrifice? So I'm going to turn this back over to you, Sharon.
It's funny because Dub and Lorri both wanted to say hello to Mickey and Cher and Karen, and I did too. And why is that? We aren't in a world. The world right now is in us, and we're projecting it, right? So we're really together. But we're looking out there when it's always within. It's never without. What's without are just concepts. Like I had said in the last time I just spoke, that this whole course is about the escape of concepts. It's about being in the space of truth. It's about love's presence. And, you know, I can get to see what I might have been like years ago with my two sons. I have two boys that each have their neurosis differently and have absolutely no interest in any of this stuff. It was kind of weird because my older boy's the one that kind of got me involved in always realizing there's so much more than religion. And he brought all this stuff to me when he was like a senior in high school, but he's totally not into it. You know, what he does for a living, he's an activist, and he's trying to change the world. And it is the most frustrating thing for him. And last night he just seemingly wanted to attack me because I didn't want to talk. And he wants to talk when he wants to talk. And I said, Andrew, you don't have anything to prove here. He doesn't want to hear that. He wants his way. Now, isn't that the way we all are? We want our way, but we don't even know what our way is because it's just one concept after another. And all we're doing all day is action, reaction, and then calling our friends and talking about it and reiterating how horrible this world is. There's no world. Isn't that the central teaching of A Course in Miracles? And the only thing that ever taught me was me, the me with a capital M. I can't learn from a brother. The brothers are just projections, but it's my mind that has to heal. And to own all of it is to realize that I'm really free. Because the resentments I carry, like when my son got so mad at me and then I had to shut it down and I was mad too. I didn't get guilty because that was just ego. It was just ego, just seemingly going towards another story and wanting control. The ego is absolutely meaningless. So then the character in the dreams will say, well, if somebody died, you'd really be upset. It's all guilt. It's all sacrifice. It's all trying to be a good, holy person, when in fact, there are no people. And to actually say here right now that it's only love's presence that's here. And then the ego wants to try to understand that, and it can't. It wants to understand how could this have happened, but it didn't. And to actually accept that nothing ever happened in seeming times takes time. Because we are, as I want to speak from my own mind, I am addicted to the ego. I think that the ego is going to give me something. And, you know, to let go of pain is the only desire I need to do, because what the ego does and how it tricks me is it says, well, go have something good to eat, or, go out for that great walk. And it's always looking to get out of pain, but that's the problem. Feel the pain at this point. It's just vibrational energy. We are in energy fields, and the energy field of the ego is not the field we want to be in. We want to be in the wholeness of spirit. And yes, have I fallen down the rabbit hole? You better believe it. Quite a bit. Because I'm admitting, just like in a 12-step program, that I have an addiction to a mind that means nothing. And that's not why I sometimes don't want to get into stories about different lifetimes. I think it's silly stuff at this point, because to me, it's another distraction. Not knowing is really the whole reason we're here. And the ego does not like not to know. For as long as you have an ego, the ego will go, well, you got to know that. You want to be safe here. Well, you're always safe because the body's meaningless. Now, I'm teaching this to myself because I need to learn that. I need to stop and realize that it doesn't matter who wins for president. It doesn't matter who dies. Now, that's a hard one for me. Nothing matters. And I remember Lenny Rose used to say, nothing matters, only God matters. And I'm telling you, what I knew about Lenny is he got this in a way that, he was picked on a little bit by certain people in the room, but I saw something in him, and that was conviction. He was just and so when he was told he was going to die, he was excited. course, he had an idea that we go to other places. I don't think he knew that at all, because in truth, we don't know anything. We don't even know what we thought. We were people. We thought we lived. I'll be 70 in January. I thought I'd been here, almost 70 years, when in fact, it's a virtual reality. We don't know. We don't know how this happened or why it happened. And in the end, it didn't happen. And I think that's what we all know down at the bottom of the consciousness of who we are. But even so, consciousness is still the domain of the ego. So there's nothing to prove here. It's all false. An awakening that happens, no big deal. It's still illusory. We're still where we always were. So I look in today's reading today, and it says the light in the dream. And it says, you who have spent your life in bringing truth to illusion, reality to fantasy, have walked the way of dreams. For you have gone from waking to sleeping and on to a yet deeper sleep. Each dream has led to other dreams, and every fantasy that seemed to bring a light into the darkness, but made the darkness deeper. Your goal was darkness, in which no ray of light could enter. And you sought a blackness so complete that you could hide from truth forever. Why do I want to hide? Because it's guilt. It's fear of God. It's fear of who I am. So just for today, or just for this moment, he's basically telling us, here it goes on, and you sought a blackness so complete that you could hide from truth forever in complete insanity. What you forgot was simply that God cannot destroy himself. What is this saying? You're already God. Yes, you're a child of God. You're not the creator, but you do have the ability to create your dreams by thoughts, and your thoughts are just concepts. They're nothing. So when he's saying basically God cannot destroy himself, why would we want to be people? I'm talking to this mind, nobody else's. Why would I want to keep being a character that has showed up in the world in duality and is upset and happy, have a piece of cake, oh, that's too fattening, have a milkshake, that's too fattening. It's all about pleasure and pain. And pain is really the ego, but so is pleasure. If I find, it's not to say you don't enjoy the dream, because enjoyment is freedom, but the enjoyment is joy that is already organic. The joy is here right now. The presence is here right now. I was so vain in my life because it was very important the way I was raised that I look okay. My father had a whole story about his 4 girls, and he put us out in the spotlight and made us look like we were so important. What I learned that Spirit was teaching me when I moved to Altoona from Philly was I'm not the person. I had losses. I had a stroke. My brain got all messed up. My teeth fell out. All the things that were, all the beauty that I used to, hold on to meant something. It meant that I was so important. That's what the ego does. It wants us to believe we are not God, and we are. And that's scary for an ego, because we think there's a God that's going to get us when we die. God can't get anything. This is nothing. Holy Spirit saying you're all being so silly. And when Dove talks about the Course, a lot of times I remember him saying chapter 18 was when he started to love the Course. And I see how it changes things too. The Course moves into a different place where it's really getting us to see the commitment is the most important thing. To wake up in the morning and to commune with your higher self, because the ego's, shrieks are always there. Get up, it says. You got to walk scruffy and you got to brush your teeth. Well, I don't even have teeth, so I have to put teeth in. And, it's just, you're just laughing at this character that's a puppet. Ken Wapnick has taught us so much. If we really just, I have all his workbooks through the journeys, and he said, never, ever deny your experience. And that is true. I had an experience yesterday with one of my boys, and I went, damn, I wish he would do the Course. That's what came up in my head. No, I got to do the Course so I see him as the Christ. So I don't see him as an ego that's so dramatic and so, attacking and blah, 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 because he doesn't want it. He's not being called to it, let me say. There's no me. I was lucky or blessed enough to get into this. I had a really hard undoing. But that doesn't mean anything either. Because it was all for me. Why is it for me? Because nothing ever happened. Teaching that to myself daily and dying to the moment, like Joel Goldsmith says, is the only thing we can do. You don't know anything, so get in that habit. I have been so addicted to wanting everything for everyone, because after all, everybody deserves, everything. Well, they already have it. That's the funny part. I don't like when people say politically that we have to be a certain way and do a certain thing, and who cares? You're in your own dream. You can do what you want. If something happens that is disturbing, I will know about it. And then I have only one job, and that's to contact and stay with conscious contact of Holy Spirit, because conscious contact is the higher self. And if I stay there, because I mean, I the last couple of days, I haven't been crazy, but I haven't been as peaceful and as like I had, my son was talking about my grandchildren, and that's just another story. But they have a story about their mother, and it's all judgment. And he was trying to state that I have to step in, and I said, that's over. I don't step in anymore. I allow life to live me. And when grace lives you, you're not trying to fix a darn thing. And if you're supposed to, you'll do it through grace. You won't do it through force. I have a book called Power versus Force. The force of the ego is such a different energy. And what I hear myself and others say is, I want God. I want God. You already are that. You're just ignoring who you are. The Son of God is God. It's just a piece of God. And yes, every brother is you. It's a mirror. This whole hologram is all about the wholeness that we are, the emptiness that we are. So today I'm teaching myself that I need to be vigilant for God and his kingdom, because it's the only thing that's here. And to talk about, that I'll be back when I die. How the heck do I know that? The only thing I can say is, and this is just something that has come through, I think, clarity, is what difference does it make? But the ego wants to be assured that it'll keep living. The ego definitely wants us to be real. And this part of me that's the healthiest part in the mind is the holiness. None of that matters. So to even go off in a story is just creating more concepts. And remember what the Course is teaching. This is an escape through concepts, period. You go into another dream, if you die and come back, that's just another concept. That's all I have. Thanks, Dub. Over to you.
Wow, Sharon, you are such a really, truly wonderful teacher. You really are. And as I'm sitting here listening to you, I'm thinking that I'm so happy this is being streamed on YouTube, so you can go back and listen to yourself, because that was a stream of Holy Spirit speaking to you and through you. And that's exactly what the purpose of ACIM Gather is, just to develop trust. And I can see as you're sitting there in your rocking easy chair, whatever, kind of, it was Spirit speaking right through you. I mean, you could never possibly have made any of that up. It was just a stream of spirit consciousness coming through you. It was just beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
It takes total trust to be able to do that. So I know it's when I don't trust that I'm looking for this and looking for that. But I want to also say, I saw Karen post on the chat a few things which I want to mention first. She says the world is really an outside picture of an inward condition. That's one of my favorite sayings. You find it in the introduction to chapter 21. It starts off, projection makes perception. Now, if we ever understood what that means, we would never, ever, ever see anyone outside of us as guilty, ever. Projection makes perception. That means that if I see anything out there that I don't like, what is it that I don't like? It's over here. It's not over there. Over there is a movie screen. It's like going to the movies. Oh my God, I don't like this. I like this. I don't like this. I like this. They used to have these 8 theaters in one place. If you don't like one movie, go to another movie. Well, yeah. But where is it coming from? In this world, it's coming from a projector in the back of the movie theater, projecting a film out on the screen, so you're entertained. That's entertainment. But in reality, projection makes perception, means that the world is my screen, and I'm projecting what I don't like from over here between my ears out over there, and I don't like what I see out there. But what does that mean? That means I don't like something that is not loving, that I see as wrong, that I see as guilty. So, wait a minute, that's what this whole course is about. Why are we doing the Course in Miracles? The whole course is about that you are the guiltless, sinless Son of God, exactly as you've been saying. You are the holiness of God. And that's what I'm about to get into, the holiness of God. You are the wholeness of God. You're not a part of God. You're the wholeness of God. You are what God created by extending himself. There's only one. There's not, it says in the Course, nowhere does it say the Father ends and the Son begins. There's no dividing line. There's no place where you draw a line in the sand and say, well, that part is yours, that part is. No, we are one. That's the whole Course. It's the unity. It's union. There's a in chapter 14, section 7, in the very first paragraph, it says, truth is union. I mean, didn't you always say, all I want is the truth? I don't care what the truth is. I just want the truth. He tells you 3 words. Whenever he gives you 2, 3, 4, 5-word sentence, right, Zulma? He wants you to listen. Truth is union. Now, what do you think he says in the next paragraph, chapter 14, section 7, paragraph 2? He reduces the truth is union to 2 words. Truth is. It's an isness. Can you imagine that? It's a verb. It goes on forever. There's nothing outside of the truth, nothing outside of the love. There's nothing outside of the peace. It's the peace of God passes all understanding. How could you understand the peace of God? With what mind can you understand the peace of God? It's totality. Like he says in chapter 7, section 7, if you really want to understand totally, like you say you do, you got to understand totality. And what is totality? It's all included equally as the same, as one. Which kind of brings up what we were talking about a little bit earlier, and kind of Lorri bringing us back to the idea about God's name. In these 2 lessons was one of Ken Wapnick's favorite lessons. Actually, 184 was Ken's 3rd favorite after 5 and 34. Lesson 183, I call upon God's name and on my own. And then it says, God's name is holy, but no holier than yours. Oh, you mean it's the same? Yeah. So let's see. Should I call God and me the Son? Well, that's like living in symbols. And exactly as I heard Sharon say, salvation is really an escape from all symbols. If God is the Father and I'm the Son, there seems to be a separation there. He's telling you there's no nowhere to say the Father ends and the Son. he has to speak in symbols and words. Words are symbols twice removed from the source itself, to kind of describe to the ego mind what he's talking about. But he didn't mean that the Father and the Son, one's called the Father and one's called the Son. No, we are one. Union, unified, same, equal, one. That's pretty much why we have the Justice of God, chapter 25, which Karen and I do on Mondays at 2:00 Eastern time. We share on the justice of God, where you really get the idea, especially in section 9, which is the last section, which is what we're on now, that it's the equality that Jesus is talking about. He says, the only reason I came into this world to teach is to teach that we are the equal sons of God. That's the only reason I came to teach. It's equality, because the ego can never, ever, ever understand equality, because it can only see differences. That's why it sees guilt. The ego can only see guilt because differences is not the same as oneness. And what is guilt? It's sin. It's the belief in separation. And only in the belief in separation can we see differences. I mean, if I'm over here and you're over there, that's differences. I'm here, you're there. I'm me, you're you. Really? That's the movie. That's the dream. It's a dream, and I'm the dream of the dream. Now, if I'm a lucid dreamer, I don't have to go any further. I'm kind of smiling and say, my God, that's some dream you're dreaming, boy. You know, you really belong in Hollywood. You know, you make some great movies, Dove. You know, you make some great movies. You know, you have a nice casting couch. You got some good people in it. Some people that maybe you wish you weren't in the movie, and you know, and there's some thrills and spills, excitements. What do you want all that, Dove? No. I'm the dreamer of the dream. And when I recognize that, I can awake from the dream and not take any of it seriously. Can you imagine that? Not take any of it seriously? Really? You mean I can laugh now, or I can't? I don't have to wait till later to laugh. You got to laugh. I think we're at our time. I'll turn back on over to you, Lorri, Sharon, Mickey, Zoma, Karen, Lynn. Thank you all.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks, you guys.
Thank you, everyone.